Yes, Akshita. Are you there, Akshita? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Akshita and Vignesh. Anyone of you? Anyone? Vignesh?
Yes, ma'am.
क्या problem?
Yes, ma'am. I'm also there.
Yes, Akshita. What's the issue?
बस विघ्नेश को पूछो.
लिखा तुमने
अरे
पूछो
मैम
विघ्नेश.
मीन्स नहीं 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 मैम actually we both are going to transfer so he's asking that do we get a certificate transferred so that in that college how we will take the admission and all.
What is the reason for
Actually
transfer?
we both uh, he's shifting to Pune and I'm shifting to my village. So do we getting a certificate of transfer or not?
No, ma'am. I have a
So,
doubt कि
हाँ वो पूछ
मुंबई
तेरे को पूछ
यूनिवर्सिटी
रहे.
से पुणे यूनिवर्सिटी ट्रांसफर होता है.
Vignesh is not audible properly.
विघ्नेश विचार की.
आता तू सांग ना अक्षता की विचार की म्हणून आवाज नाही होत ना.
अरे पण मॅम ॲक्च्युली आम्हा दोघांना शिफ्ट व्हायचं त्याला पुण्याला आणि मी माझ्या गावी तर त्यासाठी आम्हाला ट्रान्सफर ह्याचं भेटणार आहे की नाही असं आमचं डाऊट आहे की
Like you have already booked your seat somewhere in other colleges because our seats available.
एक मिनिट मॅम युअर व्हॉइस इज नॉट क्लिअर एक
I'm saying, have you already booked your seat somewhere else in any other college? Because right
नो
now,
नो 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 मॅम नो
right?
नो नो नो
So this year will be a waste, right?
ओके
Yeah, I'm asking you. That
नो
in
नो
that case,
नो
this year will get waste.
यस मैम.
अरे ये साल पूरा बेकार जाएगा ना फिर तेरा.
हाँ मैम पता है पर ये साल कंप्लीट करने के बाद ऐसा पूछ रहा है.
ओह, अभी ये साल कंप्लीट करने के बाद तो तू ऑब्वियसली कोई टेंशन लेती है. तो सेकेंड ईयर में तुझे करना होगा ना शिफ्टिंग अगर होता है. फर्स्ट ईयर में नहीं है ना अभी.
हाँ तो सेकेंड ईयर में हो जाएगा ना ऐसा पूछ.
सेकेंड ईयर में टाइम है ना अभी तो फर्स्ट ईयर में चल रहा है तेरा. तब तू करेगी तो ऑफ कोर्स विल बी गेटिंग. क्या लड़के हो सीरियसली.
Hello, ma'am.
हाँ विघ्नेश.
I'm audible now.
या बेटा.
एक्चुअली आई हैव अ डाउट कि मुंबई यूनिवर्सिटी से मतलब जो पुणे में यूनिवर्सिटी सावित्रीबाई फुले यूनिवर्सिटी वैसे मतलब डिफरेंट यूनिवर्सिटी में ट्रांसफर होता है.
हाँ ट्रांसफर होता है बट ट्रांसफर सर्टिफिकेट वगैरह सब कुछ लेना पड़ता है उसके लिए. आई फील माइग्रेशन को शायद लेना पड़ता है. ट्रांसफर तो पक्का नहीं होता है. तो इन दैट केस विघ्नेश यू आर ड्रॉपिंग लॉ एंड यू बी डूइंग समथिंग अदर सम अदर कोर्स राइट.
नो नो सेम कोर्स.
सेम कोर्स.
या मतलब ऐसा है फर्स्ट एक्चुअली डैड आस्क्ड मी to ask someone who can guide me regarding a transfer and all.
सी द बेस्ट थिंग वुड बी
मतलब ऐसे
विघ्नेश.
पक्का नहीं है मतलब जाना है मतलब डैड
अरे
ने.
मैंने पूछा इन दैट केस डोंट थिंक फ्रॉम नाउ ऑन कंप्लीट योर फर्स्ट ईयर. जब तेरा सेकेंड सेम खत्म होने वाला रहेगा उस टाइम पे ऑफिस से पूछ लेना. इतना बड़ा प्रोसेस थोड़ी है.
ओके.
ठीक है.
या श्योर.
तू अभी से अगर तू सोच तू अभी से ऑफिस फोन करेगा और बोलेगा मैं ऐसे ऐसे कर रहा हूँ तो फिर अभी तुरंत
मैं
कैसे हो
लास्ट में
सकता
पूछने
कल के
वाला
कल
था
आ रहा है.
पर मतलब yesterday Akshita asked me so I have told him I have also same doubt we can ask in the end of a second semester
No problem.
but
So in that
he.
case, don't worry, don't panic from now. You never know how situations will change, right? So there is a possibility you might not have to go. There is a possibility you might have to go. So in that case, whatever is situation, then decide. It's too early to get into all these things.
Hmm.
Are you getting this, Vignesh?
Yes, yes.
So think if you're shifting to Pune, in that case, if you're getting enrolled with exactly Savitri Bai Phule, again university itself, or there are certain branches of colleges, of course, different law colleges, or
Yes.
there you are shifting, is there place for definitely vacancy and all is available or not? So there are a number of things that you have to keep ready beforehand, before even talking and saying, see, this is what I'm planning.
Okay.
Are you getting this?
Hmm.
सो
Yes.
नेवर स्टार्ट टू अर्ली. नहीं तो ये क्या होगा कि अभी तेरा फर्स्ट ईयर शुरू ही हुआ है और अभी फर्स्ट सेम ही चल रहा है. नाउ ऑफिस पीपल एंड एवरीबडी विल स्टार्ट हैविंग दिस माइंडसेट कि अरे ये क्या अचानक से मतलब जा रहा है तो कभी भी निकल सकता है. जबकि सही बात ये है कि तेरा कुछ फिक्स नहीं है और शायद तू जाएगा तो भी फर्स्ट ईयर कंप्लीट करके जाएगा. समझ रहे हैं?
Hmm.
सो
Yes,
ऑल गुड.
ma'am.
सो टॉक लेटर. अक्षता तू ही बात कर.
Sorry, ma'am.
Sorry, ma'am.
नहीं कुछ नहीं, बस तारीफ कर रही थी.
Thank you, ma'am.
उड़ ले जमीन पे आ रहा. Okay.
Sorry.
कमिंग बैक टू आवर क्लास. ठीक है, तुम लोग अभी हो, तुम लोग मुझसे लॉजिक और हिस्ट्री पढ़ के जाना, बाकी जो होगा दिखा रहेगा. ठीक है. किधर गई? We are starting with a new chapter. Now, what I wanted to ask you all is whether you want me to continue with sums or do you want to take a theory chapter in between? There are two ways. If I can cover one theory chapter right now, okay, as we are starting with new chapter, till that time you can get done with your sums के जो भी doubts हैं आपको fourth chapter में, fifth chapter में, sixth chapter में, you can practice that by own. There are different kinds of again exercises which are given at the end. Sums का भी again this logical form वगैरह में convert करना and all these things. तो आप वो practice कर लो तब तक. So you will take 2 days. Till that time you all practice, and then again we can come back to sums and we can start with the next chapter, which is just continuation of your traditional logic ka principle. Okay, or if you want we can go ahead with
Ma'am, which are theory chapters?
theory. Are very few beta this time. Actually, one is laws of thought. If you look into the Vasantani text, this chapter is I think 15th chapter as far as I remember. Yeah, 15 chapter only. Okay, then you have after that you have one more theory chapter, that is nature and kinds of induction. Baki ka, if you all see definition and division, these are the kinds of again topics which are of course some oriented topics. So if you look at your entire syllabus, uh, there are two things which are important. Okay, your first, second, third, that is your nature of logic, proposition, terms. After that, directly laws of thought and nature and kinds of induction. These are the five chapters, which are chapters I'm saying, not unit wise. Unit wise, I'm not telling you. This is chapter as per Vasantani syllabus. Okay, so these chapters are there for theory purpose. Okay, and after that, the remaining are all sums. So if you are really working hard, in that case there is just one chapter called division. इसमें आपको थोड़ा सा confusion रह सकता है. All other chapters in case of sums are also easy. In case of theory में three तो already you have winded up in basic introduction of two terms. Okay, so that was also easier. This law of thought is one of the smallest topic that could be covered today itself. It's very simple topic. Okay, and the induction would take time, of course. That will take maybe a week to cover up. Okay, because its principles has to be understood properly. So in that case, we can do it later on. There is no hurry for that particular thing. But definitely ये sums जो है फिर sums के चैप्टर फटाफट उठते चले जाएंगे. So understand, शायद कल ही हम लोग दूसरा चैप्टर स्टार्ट कर दें. तो इतना छोटू सा चैप्टर है, this 15th वाला. Okay, so can I cover this today? Theory वाला थोड़ा change हो जाएगा आपके लिए. Till that time you all practice your chapter. Okay, Jessica, no problem. Noted. Fine. Coming back to what it was in the screen. Akshita, mute yourself. Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So, one sec, slideshow. Now, what we are doing right now is laws of thought. Now, laws of thought, the name itself indicates that we are going to talk about certain rules, certain established laws when it comes to thinking. Okay? Now, understand what exactly comes to thinking for that matter and how exactly it evolves over a period of time. There are a number of interpretations that you can make of what exactly we are going to do. Okay? But in short, to cover, first I'll start with example itself so that things are self-explanatory in their own ways. Okay, just one sec. If I tell you, okay, 2020 21, now, there were 70 students in the class of logic. This is my proposition, suppose. Okay. In 2020-21 batch, there were 70 students for logic. Okay. Tell me if you are going to mention the same proposition, okay, after 2 years. Okay. In that case, is it going to be false or it will remain true?
It will be false.
Pay attention. After 2 years, if you say in 2020,
No, I think
2020,
true.
True, true, true.
It will be true, ma'am.
yes, I have given timeline already. Okay, so even after 10 years, if you say he in our 20 like 2020-21 batch, we were 70 students in the class of logic. Is it going to be true even after 100 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
It is
ma'am.
going to be true
Yes, ma'am.
forever. That matter we can say, unless and until somebody is not concerned with it. Value. So till the time you are making use of this proposition, it will remain true always. Okay. So that is the first principle of laws of thought. So thinking ka first principle, reasoning ka first principle, first law is that if a proposition is true, okay, if a proposition is true at one time, okay, in a given frame of time, of course, we have to always take into consideration. So, if a proposition is true once, it always remains true forever. So, it remains true always. I'll rather use. अंडरस्टूड दिस मच बहुत ही सिंपल है सो अगर कोई प्रपोजिशन आज एक बार ट्रू है एक बार अगर वो ट्रू है इसका मतलब ये है कि वो हमेशा ट्रू रहने वाला है समझ में आ रहा सबको अगर ताजमहल इंडिया में अगर if you see Jaipur city is located like situated in India, okay. If you say Jammu and Kashmir, again there are two again typical parts. One we have Pak occupied Kashmir, and one of course Kashmir that India is having. Okay? So in that case, these are the statements which corresponds with fact, and these are always going to remain true. Okay. So understand if you call a proposition to be true today always even after 10 years down the line 1,000 year down the line okay that proposition ka value will always remain true understood everyone
Yes, ma'am.
everyone
Yes,
any
ma'am.
doubt
मैम
anyone हाँ.
एक बार सिर्फ वो लाइन रिपीट करो.
If a proposition is true once then it remains true always so it means and not only in case of truth okay even if your proposition is false at one given point of time it should also remain false always so both the things whatever might be the truth value always that truth value typically will remain same, okay, irrespective of timeline, okay, because in that given situation during that particular specific point of time, that was corresponding with the fact, and that is why you consider that to be true, or that was not corresponding with the fact, and that is why you consider that to be false. So whatever might be the value of a proposition, that always remains same for it. Understood, everyone? There is no
Yes, ma'am.
rocket science. It's very
Yes,
simple to understand also. Okay, but anyways, so write it down. Okay? So the first law on that basis that we are learning is the law of identity. First law under laws of thought is the law of identity. The law of identity. So what is law of identity? Write it down. The law of identity states that the law of identity states that if any proposition is true, if any proposition is true, if any proposition is true once, comma, it is always true. Now, that it is always true. Now, before considering this, keep certain specific things in mind. Okay, what it means? It means the time when a person talks about a proposition, okay, or establishes a proposition for that matter, whether truth value be false or true, okay, that person has to make use of unambiguous methodology. It means उसका जो proposition frame किया है, that has to be crystal clear without any ambiguous terms in that. So ऐसा कोई word जिसके 2 से 3 से 4 meaning निकलते हैं, in that case that would give, that would definitely lead to ambiguity today or tomorrow. Okay, so it means when you are framing such proposition, so the basis or the basic for this basic requirement for this law is that whatever proposition is framed, that proposition has to be unambiguous. Make a note of this. Okay, so this law requires proposition to be unambiguous. Okay? So that even if somebody tries to draw different inferences by using this proposition, then too they will always come to one specific, again interpretation in that way. Now understand, when we talk about valid inferences, of course अगर आज किसी चीज को आप valid consider कर रहे हो, because proposition stands for something, it has a specific truth value today, okay, and in that case after 10 years also if you want to draw inference on that basis, then validity has to be unambiguous in that, that shouldn't be compromised, and that is only possible when a thinker, frames his or her proposition, original proposition, okay, with utmost care, with utmost again, consideration in mind that we have to take care of this particular thing कि मेरा जो भी sentence sorry proposition में form करूँगा, that has to be unambiguous, free of unnecessary errors which are there. It has to be logically and grammatically correct, so that always its value remains the same. Understood this much?
Yes, ma'am.
yes,
Is it very difficult?
No, ma'am.
no, ma'am.
So this is first law of thought. Okay. So the law of identity. There is one objection only that was raised, which we have already discussed earlier. That basically talks about when you talk about one proposition that might be true, at one time, but false other time. like same example, अगर मैं बोलूँ कि there are 70 students in my class, in the class of logic, in that case always suppose आज से 10 साल बाद भी कोई बोले और मैं बोलूँ कि नहीं सी 70 students मेरी क्लास में थे लॉजिक पढ़ने के लिए, in that case of course there are many people who will interpret कि आप जो है 10 साल पहले की बात कर रहे हो. In that case what is the surety that this is going to be true? And also at the same time, okay, what again this might be false today, आप शायद भूल गए, आपकी याददाश्त कमजोर, कुछ भी हो सकता है. In that case I will say कि I'm not talking about the batch, if each and every batch that came to me. I'm talking about 2020-21 FY BLS which came to me. It was again consisting of 70 students, and there are datas also related to the same. So in that case, the validity, okay, if somebody wants to draw any inference on the basis of my this proposition, always it has to take care that I have already mentioned 2020-21. It means while framing my proposition itself, मैं उसको ऐसे फ्रेम करूं कि आज से 5, 6, 7, 8 साल बाद भी कोई उस पर ऑब्जेक्शन ना उठा सके. So in that case, as a framer of my proposition, I would rather mention timeline also. कि in this year there were these many number of students, okay, in that class who have opted for logic. Now in that case, who have opted for logic, if I am saying, it means is it optional? The answer remains no. So in that case, it was a compulsory subject. Okay. So in that case, I have to frame possibilities. Opted, have chosen, such kind of terms I cannot put into that. Okay. So in that case, as a framer, I have to be that much responsible. Otherwise, mera hi proposition fallacious in that way. So if a proposition is true once, it remains always true. Okay. The only thing is it has to be framed with by taking all the necessary conditions, okay, to whichever are required in order to implement this particular law, support this particular law, that is law of identity. Clear this much?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So it is not necessary. There is one word that you can just note down for your like better clarification, or in future if you want to use ever. Okay, it says that like when a proposition is fully expressed, when a proposition is fully expressed, then it remains always true. So it means then it could be considered to be falling under law of identity. उसका मतलब क्या है कि जिस प्रपोजिशन का ट्रुथ वैल्यू चेंज हो जाता है फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम, इट मीन्स आपने उसको इनकम्प्लीटली एक्सप्रेस किया है, आपने उसको फुल्ली एक्सप्रेस नहीं किया, अच्छे से फ्रेम नहीं किया. दिस इज व्हाट इट मीन्स. So there is a term called fully expressed and incompletely expressed. Incompletely expressed, then in that case, value might keep on fluctuating. Okay, if you have fully expressed something, then only you can say law of identity is again bounded here, compulsory. Okay, this is first law. Second law that we have is law of contradiction.
Ma'am,
हाँ बेटा.
can you give an example of incompletely expressed?
The same thing, if I say there are 70 students in my class, now in that case, if it is true today, is it going to remain true forever? Yes, it is going to remain true forever because but I have not fully expressed this. Rather, I should have framed in the batch of 2020-21. Okay, I was having 70 students again to study logic, or who were studying logic. There were 70 students in the class of logic. So in that case, timeline के साथ मैं ऐसा proposition frame करूँ बेटा जहाँ पे there is no other chance for interpretation. अब यहाँ पे incompletely expressed कब होगा? मैंने सिर्फ बोल के छोड़ दिया कि there are 70 students in my class. कौन सी क्लास में, किस साल में, कहाँ पे? तो यहाँ पे जो सुनने वाला है वो अलग अलग चीजें एक्सप्रेस करेगा. अगर मैं आपको बोलूँ कि भाई अपने कॉलेज में तो 45 स्टूडेंट्स थे FYBLS में, तो इन दैट केस क्वेश्चन अराइजेस कि मैम कब 45 स्टूडेंट्स थे, हम लोग तो 70 स्टूडेंट हैं, लास्ट ईयर भी ज्यादा स्टूडेंट है, आप कब की बात कर रहे हो? तो इन दैट केस आप यू ऑल आर 70, you all will be having these 2-3 interpretation कि मैम शायद फर्स्ट ईयर की बात कर रही हूँ, शायद सेकेंड ईयर, शायद थर्ड ईयर, या मे बी किसी और बैच की बात कर रही होंगी, अपने कॉलेज की नहीं किसी और कॉलेज के बारे में बता रही होंगी. सो इन दैट केस ये क्या हुआ, ये इनकम्प्लीट एक्सप्रेशन था मेरे प्रपोजिशन का. तो अगर मैं इनकम्प्लीट एक्सप्रेशन दूंगी, अपने प्रपोजिशन को मैं इनकम्प्लीटली एक्सप्रेस करूंगी, तो इन दैट केस देयर आर मल्टीपल, द चांसेस फॉर इंटरप्रिटेशन इंक्रीजेस. समझ में आ रहा है मुझे? लेकिन जब मैंने वही पूरा प्रॉपरली फ्रेम किया कि 2020-21 लाइक टाइमलाइन के साथ और पूरी चीजें ध्यान रखते हुए जब मैंने अपना प्रोपोजिशन फ्रेम किया, तो इन दैट केस इट विल ऑलवेज फॉल अंडर लॉ ऑफ आइडेंटिटी. इट विल ऑलवेज रिमेन ट्रू. देयर इज नो पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ एनी अदर इंटरप्रिटेशन. सो इफ आई एम सेइंग कि इन फर्स्ट ईयर, okay, of the college, we were having 45 students in FRBLS class. In that case, it is crystal clear to everyone. There is no chance for any other interpretation. We are talking about first year of the college. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So second one is law of contradiction. पहले कॉन्सेप्ट समझो, then I'll tell you how it is used actually. इसका uses क्या है. Okay. Now, do you feel, okay, if I say, suppose, uh, suppose the principle for TRCL is is I forgot it is Professor Dr. A.K. Singh in 2021. Now, can you all tell me this proposition is true or false?
True.
Yes.
True.
True.
How many of you know the name of the principal? मैंने टाइम बताया है 2021 में डॉक्टर ए.के. सिंह इज प्रिंसिपल ऑफ टीआरसी.
True, ma'am.
True.
Okay. Can it be true
True.
and false at the same time? Can it be true
No.
and false at the same time? आप
No.
अभी बोल रहे हो कि नहीं मैम ये ट्रू भी है पर ये फॉल्स भी है, ऐसा हो सकता है?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Of course not. No? So again, this is what is law of contradiction. So law of contradiction says that what we again have to always take care कि पहली चीज तो अगर कोई proposition true है तो it will remain true. Okay, but at the same time, the another principle that we have to take into consideration is like one proposition cannot have two truth values. Okay, वो एक ही चीज बोल रहा है, घुमा फिरा के बोल रहा है. ये घुमा फिरा के बोलने के benefits क्या है? I'll tell you that at the end. Okay, so in that case, एक ही proposition का value अगर दो हो, तो in that case kind of proposition. So in that case, what is the truth value? It is always, like it's more kind of induct. Are you talking about any proposition that is trying to paraphrase something inductively in that way? He always, it's like a pendulum. I don't know whether it will be true or false for that matter. So in that case, that assurity, that belief in law of identity will not be there if a proposition has two truth values. So it's very common that any proposition that we use, any proposition, okay, either it is true or it is false. It cannot be true and false at the same time. Okay, so this is what is law of contradiction. Law of contradiction says that, okay, you can write it down. The law of contradiction states that the law of contradiction states that no proposition no proposition can be both true and false. No proposition can be both true and false. Understood?
Yes.
So again,
Ma'am.
what also implies from this, now see my implication will be that what automatically implies from this is if you are saying that principal for TRCL is Dr. A.K. Singh, okay, in 2020, in that case, if you say that the principal, okay, uh, is not, okay, or Dr. A.K. Singh is not the principal of TRCL in 2021. So if you deny that, the value of that automatically will be false. So it means अगर ये ट्रू है तो इसका कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी स्टेटमेंट जो हमेशा होगा दैट विल बी फॉल्स. समझ में आ गया? So if I'm saying suppose in that way, let's see, if I say suppose Kamla is intelligent. If this is true, then Kamla is not intelligent will be false 100%. समझ में आ गया?
Yes, ma'am.
If you want to ask something, please ask. Don't hesitate. समझ में आ रहा है ना दोनों? ये बहुत ही बेसिक चीज है, बट ये कभी कभार ऐसा होता है कि we take lot of time to understand this, and it's completely fine. Okay, so shall I assume you all have understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, there are certain objections also which has been raised to law of contradiction. So, rather than telling you all, I'll prefer if you all read that, and then tell me कि how you can refute that. अगर आप पूरा का पूरा explanation नहीं भी cover करोगे, then too you can easily refute the statements which are given or the objection which is raised against this particular law which is there. Okay, let's go to the third law that says the law of excluded middle. The law of excluded middle. The law of excluded middle. What this specifically talks about. अब तक जो हमने देखा that was about one proposition. If a proposition is true, then of course it shall always remain true. Okay. Similarly, a proposition cannot be true and false at the same time. Okay. So it has to have either of the values for that matter. Okay. Now, what is law of excluded middle says? Now, see, it is more assurity that is coming now to your same thing that we have just discussed. Okay. Now, pay attention. If you say Delhi is the suppose crime capital. This is true or false? This is true or false?
False.
True.
True.
It can be
True.
both.
Can be both.
Yes.
It cannot be both. You might correct me by saying कि ma'am, in case of crime, there are specific kind of crime that you can definitely mention here. So what do you feel?
Depends.
In what case? Delhi definitely is more answer. Or if I talk about Noida, how about Noida? Favorite place? नोएडा का सुना है आप लोगों ने इंसिडेंट्स कितने हुए?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it more than UP or it is somehow similar to UP? So the first thing is, this I wrote purposely to make you all understand कि this is ambiguous statement. ठीक है? इसमें से बहुत सारे मीनिंग्स ड्राइव करने के लिए मिलते हैं. मैंने किसी एक चीज की बात नहीं की. सपोज if I refer to National Crime Record Bureau's report for the year 2019-20, Suppose if I refer to that, okay, and on that basis, if I am seeing that in a specific kind of crime, Delhi's percentage is really high. Okay, in case of like rape and all, if you see, Delhi's percentage definitely is considered to be one of the uh, unsafest, uh, again, place in India, okay, for women's safety and all. Now, this is conducted survey and NCRB report as well, but that was applicable for that particular period, when the research was done. You cannot consider this to be true even right now. Okay, so that is what the problem is here. Okay, so ये जब मैंने जो आपको सेकेंड चीज बताई थी कि पहली बात तो सॉरी लॉ ऑफ आइडेंटिटी जो मैंने आपको बताया कि you have to frame unambiguous again propositions, then only you can talk about the validity of the same. Okay, so in this context this example does not match for that matter. Okay, just to give you example, I covered this. Somebody is trying to join. So in that case, of course, I need to frame it in that manner, and this is what I was talking about. You also, in your everyday life, number of times you make this mistake of assuming or saying or talking about something for that matter, okay, which is not verified. So if it is not verified, do not give your opinions on that. This is what I will suggest rather. Say there is nothing wrong in saying, see, I don't know about it. I don't agree to this particular thing for that matter. Okay, I'm not basically in agreement to maybe few of you. Okay, so in that case, you might differ, and whenever you differ, you need to mention it. And if you don't know at all, don't try to just participate in the discussions, without any claim, without any basically again, homework from your side. Okay, what happens if we are engaged in such kind of discussions, or if we can like if we become part of discussions where all these unverified propositions are being established, then arguments are being formed, new conclusions are being drawn, इसका साइड इफेक्ट क्या है? Such things only give again, or you can say promote. Unfortunately negative है क्योंकि promotion हमेशा positive चीजों का होता है, but this is something it somehow supports rise in case of prejudiced belief. Okay, prejudiced belief system मैंने बोल दिया दिल्ली is a crime capital of India. आपको मैंने पूछा, कुछ नहीं बोला, पता नहीं. Why? Because you did not believe in whatever was just said. You were interested in verification. अगर मेरी बात आप as it is मान लेते तो उसका नुकसान क्या है? Okay? Just think about this. You would have suppose while talking किसी एक रेफरेंस में कुछ तो आया, जैसे आपने क्लास में सुना था कि मैम ने बताया था कि दिल्ली इज द क्राइम कैपिटल ऑफ इंडिया. आप जो है बिना सोचे समझे, बिना वेरीफाई किए, बिना अपना कोई ओपिनियन हुए, बिकॉज मैम ने ऐसा पढ़ाया है, आप मस्त हीरो बन के वहाँ पे जाके सिर्फ डिस्कशन में हीरो बनने के लिए यू माइट से कि अरे हाँ यार दिल्ली का हालत तो बहुत खराब है, सच में दैट इज क्राइम कैपिटल ऑफ इंडिया. इन दैट में दूसरा उठेगा और बोलेगा भाई तेरे को किसने बोला, बी वेरीफाइड द बिलीफ, हैव यू वेरीफाइड द बिलीफ. नाउ अंडरस्टैंड, अगर कोई और ऐसा है जो क्वेश्चन करता है, शायद आप ऐसे रहोगे जो क्वेश्चन करो, और अगर नहीं करते हो तो करो. डोंट गिव राइज टू एनी अनवेरीफाइड belief system ever, propositions, because we are concerned with propositions. हम sentences की बात नहीं करते हैं. And if you don't verify, then you also become victim of that false belief. So save yourself, from any kind of false belief. I'm not saying you don't agree with anything, but you just keep an open mind. तो suppose आपने discussion में कहीं पे सुना है कि ऐसी ऐसी चीजें चल रही है मंदिर में, in that case आप सुन के रखो. जरूरी नहीं है कि आप एग्री करो, पर उसको मान के मत आ जाओ. सुन के आओ, वेरीफाई करो. अगर सच में आपको लगती हैं चीजें ऐसी हैं, देन ओनली बिलीव इन दैट. ऐसा करने से आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि 100% यू कैन रिफ्रेन फ्रॉम again such kind of belief systems or unverified belief system, but still 80% of the times you can save yourself from becoming a victim of wrong thought patterns, in that wrong incorrect reasoning pattern. Again, a typical trap that is there, we get stuck to that. That is why it is very important that we have to analyze our belief system. We need to also take into consideration. So this example was to make you all understand the same concept that I'm talking about, one of the implication of this. Okay, keeping this apart, if you say your favorite place, If I'm saying Taj Mahal is beautiful, how many of you agree with this? Or how many at least pictures of that and all appears to be beautiful if you have not visited ever? Yes? Yes. Good morning.
Yes, ma'am.
ताज महल देखा है कभी?
हाँ मैम देखा है.
मैम मूवीज में.
मूवीज में देखा है, ठीक है. उसके फोटोग्राफ्स भी देखे होंगे आपने, है ना? तो इन
मैम.
दैट केस वो दिखने में वो ब्यूटीफुल लगता है कि नहीं लगता है? लगता है. तो कैन आई कंसिडर दिस टू बी ट्रू?
यस
Yes,
मैम.
ma'am.
अच्छा स्ट्रक्चर बनाया है, व्हाट्स रॉन्ग इन दैट? अब याद रखना, हम वो डिबेट में नहीं जाने वाले हैं कि ताजमहल सच में किसने बनाया. देयर आर पीपल हु आर सेइंग दैट नो वी टॉक अबाउट दैट मुमताज की याद में शाहजहां ने ताजमहल बनाया and etc etc. But there are people who are also claiming that there is shivling inside that, of course, typical mahal, whatever you say. Okay, and number of again arguments have been presented. There has been, like, I think 3 or 4 years back there was an author maybe he, of course, but he released a book also talking about this myths related to Taj Mahal and how it is not originally built up, basically monument. Maybe structurization दिया होगा बाद में, but originally it was something else. Okay, so number of things are there. I'm not asking you all to get into this. These are the possibilities. कल आपको कुछ लगता है कि नहीं ये सच है, you are also free to express yourself. See, we are free individuals. So in that case we can definitely express. तो हम लोग उस वाले डिबेट में नहीं जाते हैं, हम लोग सिर्फ इतने से मतलब रखते हैं कि भाई दिखने में तो अच्छा ही दिखता है. So in that case Taj Mahal is beautiful. In that case it is true. Now understand, if this is true, do you think Taj Mahal is not beautiful? This will be true or false?
मैम इट विल बी फॉल्स.
So अगर आपने पहले को ट्रू मान लिया है तो दूसरा ऑफ कोर्स फॉल्स होना चाहिए. इन दोनों का जो रिलेशन है उसको हम लोग बोलते हैं कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी. कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी. So this law of excluded middle says that whenever we are talking about two contradictory propositions, okay, they cannot be false. They cannot both be false. Okay. Do you think Taj Mahal is beautiful and not beautiful दोनों false हो सकता है एक ही साथ?
No, ma'am.
Not
नो
possible.
मैम.
Okay.
No,
If I'm
ma'am.
saying Jessica is in F5 BLS class, if this is true, Jessica is not in F5 BLS class, this has to be false. Can both be false at the same time? So जैसे
नो
दोनों ट्रू नहीं, एग्जैक्टली. सो जैसे दो ट्रुथ वैल्यू नहीं होते, वैसे ही जब आप दो प्रपोजिशन की बात करते हो, कोई भी दो प्रपोजिशन, when they are related to each other in contradiction, okay, in that case they cannot be false. No, both cannot be false. One has to be true and the other compulsorily has to be false. Now this is the law of excluded middle. Okay, so in these are the three laws, only three laws, okay, which you need to remember. And it's very simple chapter. Okay, nothing much to bother also. Okay, I'll give you all 5 minutes break. You all come back. Then we will talk about application of this particular again, knowledge that we have accumulated. कहाँ कहाँ apply होता है, we must have seen in movies number of times, but we never pay attention to such kind of thing because, of course, it was not required up to certain period of time. But we are in logic now. We have to analyze our sentences whatsoever. You all stay here. Take 5 minutes break. Do not leave from the meeting. Everyone, just give me 2 minutes. I'm assigning exam. Just give me 2 minutes. Can anyone think of the application of these three laws in law of court? Think and do. थोड़ा सा brainstorm.
Ma'am, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I'm saying these three laws that we have just learned. Okay, that if we said something, any proposition that we used, that has to be true forever. So again, if once true, always true. It means we have to talk with utmost care. We have to keep the quality of our proposition standard and well examined. Okay. Second thought that says that never assume that if a proposition is true, it can also be false. So it means two truth values cannot be possible for one proposition. Okay, so if a proposition is again true, it cannot be false. If it is false, then it cannot be true. So it cannot be true and false at the same time. Okay, third law that we learn, extended middle ka, that says basically two contradictory propositions cannot be false. If one is false, then the other has to be true. The contradictory of that has to be true. Okay. Think and tell me the application of such principles in arguments that you have ever heard or that you can actually think of. What is the uses and application?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Nothing to hurry. Take 2 minutes. Think and try to you try to basically assume कि what could be the application, possible application that you can think of.
Ma'am,
Yes, continue, honestly.
ma'am, one thing that law of thought, law of identity that is always true. It is judgment. Once true, always true.
Very good. Think more. You also Anjali, try to think more, like how you can use these arguments. क्या lawyers use करते हैं अगर करते हैं तो कैसे but you came to a very important point that judgment if it is true once it should remain true forever. Okay.
Ma'am, contradiction, like when the lawyers interrogate the one who has committed a crime. So the statement can be both true or false. Hello,
Yes, I'm listening and thinking also, Samiksha. So
yes,
how could it be true and false?
ma'am. I can't hear you.
I'm saying how it could be both.
Like the person who's accused can either say a true statement or a false statement.
Yes. What else you all can think of?
Ma'am, can I check my one point again?
Go ahead. No need for permission. Sanjay said something. किसी और को ऐड करना है. Keep on add.
मैम गिल्टी और नॉट गिल्टी, कभी कभार ऐसा भी होता है ना कि ट्रू फॉल्स में भी कभी गिल्टी हो सकता है, वो अगर फॉल्स है तो गिल्टी, अगर नहीं फॉल्स है तो नॉट गिल्टी.
Yes. Fine. Others. Good morning, everyone. Think. बस 2 लोगों ने सोचा. How about others? वैष्णवी, नियति, आदित्य, सुदेश, दो मिनट और मिलेगा आपको. Tell me something. Don't sit blank. I'm not talking about a topic जो खुद को ही पढ़ना है, खुद को ही सीखना है. It's very again understandable as well. You just have to start visualizing, imagining, abstract thinking थोड़ा डेवलप करो. सोच के बताओ कहाँ कहाँ यूज करते हो.
मैम
ये सब
इट इज नॉट ऑलवेज पॉसिबल कि हमारे अपोनेंट में जो लॉयर है उसकी ही बातें सब सही रहे. इट कैन अप्लाई टू दैट ऑल्सो.
yes, very good. I'm happy Anjali and Samiksha you all are actually thinking. बाकी के लोगों में से कोई भी बेटा मैं मोटिवेशन का इंजेक्शन लेके तो नहीं घूम सकती ना हमेशा. एक एक को लगाऊंगा. You all have to tell me. साक्षी गायकवाड़, आयुष, अरिथा, ईशा, respond here.
Ma'am,
Yes,
ma'am, contradiction can be used while cross-examination, like when the trial is going on, and that time it can be used while the lawyer is cross-examining a person.
very good. Yes, others, Ashish, Fleur,
It can be used during the court session. Both the
yes,
parties are talking to the judge.
okay.
मैम देर इज ऑल्सो वन पॉइंट, आपने एक सेंटेंस बोला था कि कि जो ट्रूथ रहता है वो फॉर पर्टिकुलर पीरियड टाइम के लिए रहता है. तो फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे अभी कोई लॉयर ने कुछ मतलब कोई जजमेंट पास हुआ, वो आज के लिए ठीक हो सकता है बट आने वाले टाइम पे वो हमेशा सही नहीं रह सकता, क्योंकि सोसाइटी बदलती रहती है, चेंज होती रहती है. तो क्या पता वो आने वाले टाइम पे अप्लाई नहीं होता है.
तो क्या अप्लाई होता है जैसे एग्जांपल बताओ मुझे.
जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल लॉ उस टाइम पे था कि 18 साल से जो कम उम्र वाले या जो 18 साल वाले थे उनको मतलब वो कुछ कुछ भी ब्रूटल काम कर दे या बलात्कार रेप वगैरह कर देते हैं, उनको उतनी सजा नहीं होती थी, जबकि अब ये चेंज हो चुका है.
राइट.
हाँ.
बट उस टाइम की जब आप बात करोगे अंजलि, आपको टाइमलाइन देना पड़ेगा ना कि फ्रॉम दिस ईयर टू दिस ईयर द प्रोविजन
हाँ,
फॉर
फॉर अ पर्टिकुलर
जुवेनाइल.
पीरियड.
यस, तो वहाँ पे आप जो है, तो अगर आपने वो मेंशन नहीं किया, सपोज अगर लॉ अपडेट हो गया, ठीक है, तो अभी लॉ अगर अपडेटेड है तो आपको जो है ऑफकोर्स जब आप पुराने लॉ का रेफरेंस दोगे तो हमेशा आपको वहाँ पे बोलना पड़ेगा कि अप टू दिस ईयर जुवेनाइल के केसेस में दिस वाज द प्रोविजन एग्जिस्टिंग इन इंडिया. Understand, law of land is very important. Okay, so law of the land basically that is saying that whenever you talk about, that is lex loci typically, okay, if you talk about anything in a specific given period, तो आपको हमेशा mention करना होगा होगा. सो अंजलि, जब भी आप जुवेनाइल के बारे में बात करोगे तो इन दैट केस बिलो द एज ऑफ 18 ईयर्स जो भी बच्चे होंगे, दे आर कमिटिंग क्राइम, तो ऑफकोर्स हम उसको जुवेनाइल बोलते हैं. आई होप यू ऑल नो ऑल दीज थिंग्स. तो इन दैट केस पनिशमेंट यहाँ तक नहीं दिया जाता था up to this particular year. But with you have to quote cite the case, from this particular case onwards, because of the brutality or whatever has been shown, that basically somewhere again brought one new issue into picture, that do we really again keep on considering such kind of acts, or we need to be harsh in case of our punishments, even a bit more. So you'll be always giving reference. So in that case, जिस ईयर तक जुवेनाइल में जो लॉ एग्जिस्ट करता था, आप हमेशा उसका रेफरेंस दे रहे हो, तो प्रोपोजिशन हमेशा ट्रू ही है. ठीक है. तो अगर आप उसको आधा बोलोगे तो एज ए लॉयर आपको वो आधा नहीं बोलना है, आपको उसको काट छाट के उसके साथ प्ले नहीं करना है. यू हैव टू मेक यूज ऑफ कि आपका प्रोपोजिशन आप सही से फ्रेम करो. दिस इज आवर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी एज लॉयर्स. अंडरस्टूड?
ओके मैम.
Ma'am,
मैम
यस आदित्य.
the law of identity is also used in history, right? जैसे हिस्ट्री में अगर कुछ पहले हो चुका है तो फिर वो वैसे ही रहने वाला है.
यस कोर्स, जो जितने नोन फैक्ट्स हैं ऑफकोर्स वो एज इट इज ही रहने वाला है. हमेशा जब भी बात करोगे 1857 के बोल्ड की, तो हमेशा 1857 का रेफरेंस आएगा और प्रोपोजिशन ट्रू ही होगा हमेशा. सो ऐसी जो भी चीजें लाइक इफ यू से 1857 का.
Ma'am,
हाँ बोलो.
ma'am, these statements are used in precedent cases, preceding cases.
अच्छा, precedent cases, yes. So how can you elaborate a bit?
Ma'am, in the law of court, we refer to specific cases that were, the. I mean,
Are you speaking? But हेलो श्वेता.
मैम
हाँ बोलो.
मैम इसमें ऐसा भी हो सकता है ना कि मतलब समझो आपने बोला था कि ताजमहल इज ब्यूटीफुल, तो वो मतलब मेरे लिए तो है ट्रू, बट सामने वाले के लिए वो ट्रू नहीं भी हो सकता है ना.
नहीं, ऐसी प्रॉब्लम क्या होती है यहाँ पे कि अगर आप मानते हो उसको, ठीक है, अंडरस्टैंड, ताजमहल ब्यूटीफुल है, चाहे वो आप मानो या मत मानो, वो स्ट्रक्चर तो ब्यूटीफुल है ही ना, उसमें तो कोई कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं है. उसका आर्किटेक्चर और ये सब जो चीजें हैं वो अपने आप में ब्यूटीफुल बताती है. आपका कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ ब्यूटी माइट डिफर, तो वो आपका सब्जेक्टिव ओपिनियन होगा, सब्जेक्टिवली आपके लिए गलत हो सकता है, बट उसका आर्ट और आर्किटेक्चर जो हम देखते हैं, तो भाई एज पर द प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर वो हमेशा सही ट्रू ही रहने वाला है. ठीक है. सो इट हैज इट्स ओन ब्यूटी, इट हैज इट्स ओन यूनिक स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन. नाउ इट्स माय पर्सनल ओपिनियन, मेरा सब्जेक्टिव जो कनोटेशन था कहीं ना कहीं कि नहीं ये क्वालिटी इसमें एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती, एंड दैट इज व्हाई इट इज नॉट ब्यूटीफुल, वो मैंने बनाया है उसमें. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ब्यूटीफुल नहीं है बिकॉज ऑफ दिस रीजन. सो वो मेरा पर्सपेक्टिव है. दिस इज व्हाट टिपिकली यू कैन बेसिकली समराइज टू से. सो अगर मुझे लगता है, अगर किसी जज ने कोई जजमेंट दिया, अब वो जजमेंट ऑफकोर्स बेस्ड है बहुत सारा ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग, बहुत सारी मेहनत के बाद बंदे ने डिसाइड किया. वो खाना थोड़ी पका रहा था बैठ के कि यहाँ पे बस जो मन में आया वो डाल दिया, जैसा हुआ वैसा टेस्ट बन गया, और फिर इन दैट केस जिसको पनिशमेंट मिला है उसको जजमेंट कभी पसंद आता है क्या? उसके लिए जजमेंट हमेशा गलत ही रहता है. ठीक है. या उनके जानने वाले लोगों के लिए हमेशा गलत रहता है. सो इन दैट केस उससे तो लॉ चेंज नहीं हो जाएगा ना, काम करना बंद तो नहीं कर देगा बिकॉज आपको लगता है कि नहीं ये सही नहीं है. वो जजमेंट सही है तो वो सही ही रहेगा, और अगर वो गलत है तो गलत है, तो उसमें मॉडिफिकेशंस के चांसेस हैं. ऑलवेज रिमेंबर दिस. ओके. सो ऐसा नहीं कि जजमेंट सब सही होता है. अगर कोई जजमेंट गलत भी हुआ तो भी जितने प्रूफ मिले थे, कभी जजमेंट गलत क्यों नहीं माना जाता? बिकॉज ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ जितने प्रूफ मिले हैं, अ जज हैज टू थिंक विद इन दैट गिवन फ्रेमवर्क. उसके बियॉन्ड जाके अगर उसका मन करता भी है कि नहीं भाई ये बंदा गिल्टी है, उसको दिख रहा है, उसको खुद भी पता है गिल्टी है, पर फिर भी वो जजमेंट नहीं दे सकता उस तरह से, बिकॉज जितने प्रूफ चाहिए थे वो प्रूफ्स आए ही नहीं है. जितने मिले हैं वो उसको डेफिनेटली गिल्टी कंसिडर करने के लिए सफिशिएंट नहीं है. तो इवन इफ यू नो सब्जेक्टिवली कि हाँ मेरा जजमेंट गलत है, then too I have to give my judgment on the basis of available facts. I cannot infer baselessly. Are you getting this? This is the biggest
Yes,
drawback.
ma'am.
जज को पता होता है कि मैं गलत जजमेंट दे रहा हूँ, मुझे पता है कि ये पर्सन गिल्टी है, बट देन टू बिकॉज कोई प्रूफ नहीं है, यू हैव टू रिलीज द पर्सन, बिकॉज कोई प्रूफ नहीं है, यू हैव टू कंसिडर वॉट एवर इज कमिंग एज इट इज। ओके, सो दिस इज द बिगेस्ट ड्रॉबैक, और वो सबसे मॉरली सबसे डिस्टर्बिंग फैक्टर होता है फॉर अ जज ऑल्सो। ओके, थिंक मोर, यू आर कमिंग अप विद गुड पॉइंट्स। सोचो और बताओ और क्या क्या हो सकता है। मेरे पास इतने सारे
मैम
यस 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 बेटा।
मैम एक लाइन है जहाँ पे आपने बताया कि व्हेन अ प्रपोजिशन इज ओनली एक्सप्रेस, तो मुझे ये लाइन से ये याद आ रहा है कि अगर जब तक आप अपने मतलब जो भी आपके डिपेंडेंट को एक्सप्रेस नहीं करेंगे आप, तब तक उसका मतलब क्या क्राइम है या कुछ गलत किया है कि नहीं किया है वो कैसे मालूम पड़ेगा, और वो कंप्लीट वे में आपने एक्सप्रेस किया है कि इनकम्प्लीट वे में किया है वो भी मायने रखता है।
It's very good. Okay, so that is also important. And now this comes to responsibility of assisting, judicial again field in deciding the right or coming up with the right judgment. उसमें एक lawyer का बहुत बड़ा role होता है. So typically, if we all try to analyze with the same format which is there, okay, what we need to understand is whenever you are playing the role of lawyer and once you know that your client definitely is non guilty, in that case you have to come up, you have to search for the possible of course things that will ensure that the justice is being made, and in that case not much of effort definitely would be put in that. But as lawyer we are assisting judge, तो हमारा काम है कि उनको ऐसी चीजें मिले या बेसिकली जजमेंट करने के लिए जो कि फॉर्म हो based on certain logical principles, at the same time something which is rational, something which is just also. So I cannot keep on assuming and giving anything that is coming for that matter. So this is very important, that responsibility gets shifted on all of us. Okay, I'll take you to a movie. How many of you have seen Damini movie? Damini, by any chance? कोई है?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay, what is a
Yes,
typical,
ma'am.
what is the overview of like overview story क्या है उसका, थोड़ा सा बताओ कोई शॉर्ट में। What that story is all about?
It's about a girl named Damini who was raped, and there are court proceedings regarding that. I don't remember all of the movie, ma'am. I watched it a while ago.
Fine. Somebody else?
I have messaged in the chat box. Everyone can read that.
Somebody can read that for me.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. I'll go ahead. Damini witnesses her housemaid being raped by her brother-in-law and his friends. Despite facing many obstacles, she strives to get justice for her with the help of her husband and Govind, a lawyer. That's the story, Damini. In the movie Damini, that's the story.
Now, if you scrutinize, the entire story very carefully, there is, one new subject which is evolving in the field of course, study of society and the perspectives which are present in the society. That there are a number of courses which are coming on how to analyze movies. Okay, so in short, what I can say is that the paper also that we have introduced in university in philosophy department that basically talks about philosophy of films. Okay, now how films are capturing the realities of society or trying to be a kind of mirror image for the society. That is what typically has been covered. Okay, now in that typical framework, okay, as we all go ahead, the possibilities which are being shown in the movie. There are a number of sociological conflicts which are existing. That is nothing but unfortunately, or for again, see, unfortunately only I will say, because when it comes to such things, वो movie है और वो interpretation. Okay, so there is a typical lawyer who is frustrated with the system. उसको खुद justice नहीं मिला, but वो खुद lawyer था, उसको खुद justice नहीं मिल रहा है, तो वो वहाँ पे परेशान है. There is a son who is definitely trying to go against the family because he knows that his wife is innocent in that way, but somehow he wants to definitely save her also, but cannot do much. Restrictions where जहाँ पे आपको पता है चीजें गलत हैं, then to just on the basis of certain taught moralities, that we cannot go against parents and all those kind of things. Okay, typically a basic value system is being compromised, of course. Okay, then there is another person, like being a father who basically tries to save her daughter, and typically if you are looking into that, that he is also ready to accept wrong things. Okay, or he is also ready to say something which is completely false, just in the hope that he has been given by the opponent lawyer कि अगर आप ऐसा ऐसा बोल दोगे तो उसको उस दिन सजा मिल जाएगी, वो निकल जाएगी. So in that case, कोई उसको punishment कोई harsh नहीं मिलने वाला है. So in that run, that person is compromising with this. Okay? So if you go ahead with a number of assignments, there is a lady definitely who is concerned about the justice. She's not concerned about any other thing. Simultaneously, she's of course bothered about something wrong which has happened. At the same time, she's surprised how is it possible that something wrong is happening in front of you, and then too you are behaving as if nothing has happened. Okay, so with all these things, like how can we all be so insensitive that just because you have to save somebody who is your own person, for that thing you can consider something really immoral like this. Okay, now understand, we are talking about a society, जहाँ पे typically we have number of movies and all which are concerned, like if you have seen Mother India. मैं बहुत पुरानी मूवी की बात कर रही हूँ, बिकॉज ये सारा जूरिस्प्रूडेंस है आपके लॉ का. जब लॉज बनते हैं, दीज आर द बेसिक्स ऑफ लॉ. ओके, दैट इज आई एम टेकिंग यू ऑल अगेन टू यू कि जो भी बनते हैं लॉज, दैट इज नथिंग बट सोसाइटल बेनिफिट, वेलफेयर इज टेकन इनटू कंसिडरेशन, देयर आर नंबर ऑफ प्रिंसिपल्स एंड challenges at the same time. Okay, so in that way, now in Mother India must have seen, like mother killing or her own son in that way. You must have seen Vastav, new one. Okay, like mother over there also killing, shooting, जो भी आप बोलो, okay, her own son. Now in that case, we are talking about a land जहाँ पे justice is more important than your relationship. And in the Damini movie, that typical, this entire process of that moral dilemma has been covered somewhere. Now in that, there are few things I would like to remind जो कि यहाँ से मिलते जुलते हो सकते हैं. There is a case जहाँ पे our favorite चड्ढा, that is Amrish Puri. I like his style, वो जो बाल ऊपर छटकता है. Those who have seen or not seen, तो जब जाओ और जाके at least उतनी movies को उतने शॉर्ट्स देखो जहाँ पे एक रिमार्केबल एक्शन जाके सब जाने दो. But again, Mr. Chadha or Advocate Chadha, how he is trying to basically justify himself over a period of time. And in that typical scrutiny, how there is also certain aspects where you will see, the social conditioning very much deeply rooted in our society. Okay, now very much deeply rooted. When I'm saying, definitely you're not again, you are being ashamed. You are being made feel guilty of something that you have basically. So there is a typical scene where heroine definitely bursts out and she basically says immediately that कि if somebody has been raped, you are asking me कि where the person's hands were, where this was there, that was there. So in all these cases, how much insensitive we all have been. Are you going to ask the same question to your mother, to your sister? Why are you trying to manipulate the things? When it comes to dignity of women, why are you compromising on those things? So typically, very rationally and boldly coming out and saying कि मतलब there is nothing to be ashamed about. This is my body and this is how it is, and you are also familiar. You must have, like, you have again taken birth from a lady herself. So in that way, typically those social stigmas, how role playing has been very much deeply rooted in Indian society, that flux also has been covered. Okay, so understand, if you talk about ये सब mixture, लेके मूवी में सारा मसाला डालना होता है, तो सारी मोरालिटी वाले इश्यूज वहाँ पे कवर कर लिए. बट देयर इज वन थिंग जहाँ पे चड्ढा बोलता है कि ये बहुत, लाइक, ये पागल है. पहले उसने प्रूव कर दिया शी इज पागल, and later on when the proceedings are ongoing, later जब Sunny Deol comes into action, typically उसका lawyer बन जाता है, then at one point he is saying कि ये लड़की बहुत चालाक है. So in that case, you understand, कोई पागल है, चालाक है, those are two contradictory statements. Two contradictory statements cannot be false. Okay, so इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Immediately Sunny Deol gets up and says कि I'm not getting it. At one side you say कि वो पागल है, at one side you are saying कि वो चालाक है. So please come to a point कि इसमें से गलत क्या है? या तो आपने बोला अगर वो चालाक है तो पागल नहीं हो सकती, अगर वो पागल है तो वो चालाक नहीं हो सकती. So typically your own statements, वहाँ पे this law of excluded middle is being applied. Okay, then there are number of cases definitely कि यहाँ पे this is also violation of law of identity, because if you say she is mentally unsound, if this is true, that should always be true. Why are you changing in your statements? It means either that is false or this is false. Typically law of contradiction is also coming in the picture, कि if she is pagal, in that way she will always remain. True or false, दोनों वैल्यू एक साथ आप असाइन नहीं कर सकते हो. So whatever you are saying as a lawyer, just scrutinize that. Okay, whether that is really applicable or not, whatever you are saying. So again, that is the third thing, जहाँ पे एक ही केस में एक ही स्टेटमेंट पे आप तीनों लॉज एप्लीकेबिलिटी, लॉ का एप्लीकेबिलिटी देख सकते हो. Now these are the small pointers, which in law of court also you will observe in your upcoming futures if you are visiting. Movies वगैरह तो ठीक है, थोड़ा सा ड्रामेटिक बनाते हैं हम लोग, okay, but रियल में सारी कोर्ट प्रोसीडिंग्स ऐसी नहीं होती हैं. Okay, जनरली इन केस ऑफ रेप केसेस, एडल्ट्री केसेस, जहाँ पे डेफिनेटली डिग्निटी इन्वॉल्व है किसी की, वो केसेस जो हैं ऐसे ओपन कोर्ट की तरह नहीं होते. So there are certain procedures, separate procedures for the same. Okay, so that is how it is. But anyways, the issue of this was to bring to your notice that we are making use of number of things in our everyday life. Okay, but the only thing is we are not aware of this. Okay, so movies are just one reflection because you watch movies. So I'm just giving you example of that. But this is another example. Did you all understand the concept?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
प्रपोजिशन का वैल्यू इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, आप दुनिया में कुछ भी फ्रेम करो, बट योर प्रपोजिशन प्लेज एन इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल. ओके, सो दैट इज व्हाई whatever you say as a lawyer in future, whatever you are saying as an individual, if you want to be a person definitely who has to be respected in a dignified form throughout the time, in that case you are known for your words. And that is why when you speak something, any proposition for that matter, it becomes our responsibility equally that we are टॉकिंग फ्रॉम दैट फ्रेम ऑफ माइंड दैट जहाँ तक हो सके, इसका मतलब नहीं कि हम गलतियां नहीं करेंगे, बट एटलीस्ट जहाँ तक हो सके वी आर बीइंग केयरफुल while drafting my propositions, and that automatically will assign a specific value to my personality, to whatever words I speak, definitely to overall image building that I do, definitely. Okay, so all those things will be important. So here the question is not about कि आप सही केस लड़ो या गलत केस लड़ो. It's all about आप कुछ भी लड़ो, बट अल्टीमेटली ऐसा कुछ मत करो कि जो मोरालिटी का वायलेशन हो जाता है. सो हम कभी झूठे केस भी लड़ेंगे, वी नेवर नो, हम टाइम को बचाएंगे, हम जानते ही गलत है, और इन दैट केस किसी की डिग्निटी के साथ कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो, इतना एक्सट्रीम जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. वी कैन स्टॉप आवरसेल्व्स ऑलवेज ऑन टाइम. ओके, एज फ्यूचर लॉयर्स ऑल्सो, देयर इज प्रोफेशनल ethical code of conduct, and that we should not be crossing. So while taking up the cases, these are the certain things which needs to be taken into consideration. Now sometimes it rarely happens, but in very rare cases it has also been found that the lawyer himself, while taking the case, is not again aware of the fact of his or her client for that matter. At later stages definitely it comes that when a person comes to know, so rather than saving him, he rather tries to अगेन कम अप विद सर्टेन आर्ग्यूमेंट्स जहाँ पे वो उसके अगेंस्ट ही जाए और उसको लास्ट में पनिशमेंट मिले, और वो जानबूझ के कुछ फैक्ट्स वो नहीं मेंशन करता, फैक्ट्स छोड़ो, कुछ आर्टिफिशियल फैक्ट्स वो नहीं बनाता, बचाने की बहुत कोशिश नहीं करता. सी दैट इज ऑल्सो वन वे ऑफ मेंटेनिंग योर मोरालिटी. जो आप डायरेक्टली कुछ नहीं कर सकते हो तो इनडायरेक्टली करो. सो इन दैट केस आर नंबर ऑफ थिंग्स लाइक दैट. अब उसके लिए भी एक मूवी है, वो पता है, क्योंकि मैं झूठ नहीं बोलता, दैट गोविंदा वाला मूवी.
Yes,
one
ma'am.
case that he gets furious.
क्योंकि मैं झूठ नहीं बोलता है.
Yes, so he was like, yes, better.
Ma'am, should morality stand higher than the duty you are assigned to?
Morality, so your duty, depending upon what kind of duty you are trying to justify, because what has been considered duty to be, in case of Indian society, it is based upon number of principles. It is based upon your ashram dharma. Ashram dharma means आप किस stage में, like अगर duty as a student will be different than duty as a householder, maybe for you all also after 10 years. Okay, duty as a citizen would be different. Okay, duty as per definitely when you have, suppose like after retirement and all, when you are enjoying happy life and you are serving society, will be different. So as per your ashram dharma, as per your word is not caste. It means आपका profession क्या है. So आप डॉक्टर हो, इंजीनियर हो, क्या हो, typically this is what casteism कभी इंडिया में था ही. Word system, that is your occupation, your ashram dharma, that is your age group and which system you are belonging to, which age group you are belonging to, which group you are serving to for that matter. Okay, on the basis of that, your swadharma is decided, your self duty, okay, is decided. So dharma never means religion, dharma is duty. Okay, so again in that context swadharma will differ from person to person, और उसमें भी moral implications कैसे होंगे कि there is again that discourse is fixed for morality, somewhere for any of the term, okay, कि उसका universe of discourse fixed है, but आप उसमें कॉम्प्रोमाइज करते हो, उसके बियॉन्ड जाते हो, या उसमें आप ज़्यादा मॉरल हो, कम मॉरल हो, और अगर आप इमोरल हो तो भी क्यों हो, आपके रीजंस क्या है फॉर दैट मैटर, ऑल दोज थिंग्स वो सब कंसिडर करने के बाद कोई आपको आपकी ड्यूटी बता सकता है. सो आइडियली मोरालिटी is not very much different from duty. It will also change depending upon the assignments that we have, depending upon the performance of actions that are needed for that matter. Okay, so that is how it is defined. See what happens in case of our typical movies that we see. चलो ये किसका, वो सलमान खान की कौन सी मूवी थी, वो बैंक वगैरह लूटता है लास्ट में, देयर इज अ किक ही था ना, in that movie it is very well justified last में कि पता चोरी करता है तो किसके लिए करता है, orphan children के लिए. So in that case the person is doing charity, और charity करने के लिए चोरी कर रहा है. अब आपके सामने ये केस है, यहाँ पे वो अपना ड्यूटी क्या समझ के बैठा है, उसको लगता है कि ये मेरा ड्यूटी है डेफिनेटली टू हेल्प दीज चिल्ड्रन. अब उसका ड्यूटी उसके लाइक उसका स्वधर्म जो है वो उसके वर्ण और उसके आश्रम धर्म के बेसिस पे डिसाइडेड है, और उसने वो अपने लिए पैरामीटर सेट किया है, which is right and just for people who love him definitely. Okay, but in the eyes of law that cannot be considered to be a duty. अब ड्यूटी का मतलब ये नहीं कि आप किसी का आप जो आप अगर ये सुपारी लेके किसी को मारते हो, यू आर अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किलर, दैट डजंट मीन कि वो आपका ड्यूटी हो गया. सो इन दैट केस एनालाइज्ड वन, व्हाट इज द एंड. सो अगेन व्हाट इज द एंड, एंड मीन्स गोल. सो आपका गोल क्या है, उससे ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट आपके मीन्स भी होते हैं, बट मीन्स में भी हमको कभी कभी कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना पड़ता है, बट दैट कॉम्प्रोमाइज शुड नॉट बी फॉर योरसेल्फ. That has to be noted, and underlined, highlighted, जो भी आप बोलो. Okay, that compromise is not for yourself. That compromise is for welfare of the people, for welfare of someone, and that someone में भी selfish means पे base नहीं होना चाहिए. So that वो personal फायदा नहीं होना चाहिए उसका, उसमें definitely कुछ ना कुछ broader welfare included होना चाहिए, and then only it could be considered to be just. So this is a thing, बच्चा, that is how in law of court also the concept of judgment on the basis of different moral principles keeps on always differing. So you need to understand कि that is why same situation में भी किए हुए crime के लिए दो अलग अलग punishments दिए जाते हैं. Why? Your intentions, situation जो था उस time पे, at the same time your thought pattern on your sense of duties for that matter, by your action who was harmed, whether that person was himself or herself a criminal in that way. अगर उसका कोई नुकसान हुआ है तो why should law take that into consideration? No? So again law has to be definitely just in that way. आपको punishment तो देना है, but of course it cannot be typically like a criminal. So in that case some modifications will be made in judgments which are there. So that is how law can never be specific for everyone. आप उसको universal नहीं बना सकते. It will differ from person to person and upon action to action. So, but then too, as individuals, we have to set higher order, again, more standard of moralities, so that we don't compromise with our duties. That's the typical thing. Yes, Shweta, you're asking something?
Oh, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Should I?
Ma'am, okay, please go ahead.
Ma'am, the concept of legal duties and moral duties are also mentioned in penal code and all. Like I read some
Yes.
illustrations, and
Yes.
there it is mentioned that if a person is drowning, and you know how to swim, but you are not the lifeguard or anything there.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose in a swimming pool or somewhere else.
Right.
So you have a moral duty to save that person, but
Exactly.
you are not legally, obligated to save him.
Exactly. But again, if you ask yourself, you will get the answer I have to say. So again, that is like morality beyond any legal. Again, existence, it has definitely much more again weightage as compared to any time legal or any other kind of like personal duties, set of duties, and all those things. Yes, Ashish.
Yes, ma'am. I just had a doubt about a statement you made. You said that if you believe that your client is guilty, so you don't represent him properly. That was your statement, if I'm correct.
No, this was not the statement. The statement was we have seen certain people, very rare people. Like I know personally one of the person that somewhere, if you try to definitely analyze on the basis of the client ka case that he has taken, okay, he came to know later on that the person was guilty and there was something cruel that the person has committed. Basically, cruel violation was there, and in that case, when he came to know, he was completely shattered. Okay, there were two ways in this, like being a lawyer, अगर हम उनका professional duty देखने जाएं तो he could have basically left the case. That is another thing. But he from his own side tried to compromise on something. So what was his ideology was कि ठीक है, if I know that the person has done something really cruel and something really worst has happened for against the society, in that case, if I definitely leave the case also, then too he's not going to get punishment. So it's better that I will try to maybe somewhere compromise here with my professional duty so that moral standards could be maintained. Understood?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Ma'am,
Yes.
who decides the threshold for all of these things, for morals, for ethics, for duties, and as you mentioned in the last one?
See, it's your conscience, Dave. Most important thing. When you are sitting at the place,
Yeah,
yes.
and
Ma'am, if I'm a lawyer and I'm confined to take a case, even if my task is to represent my client, even
Right.
if it's wrong or right, my job is to. He has appointed me as his legal advisor or legal lawyer.
He's not
Uh,
appointed. You have agreed to be.
yeah. So, okay.
There's difference there.
Yeah,
There's
I'm
difference. Yeah.
okay. I'm representing him in the court, so I know he is guilty of the crimes. But I think it's my job to set him free. So, is that wrong or is that right? As you mentioned, it's
As
about.
per on the standard, no, I'm not saying it is wrong. On the code of standard, like professional duty ka set, it is right. At professional, as a part of professional duty, you have to, at any cost. Understood?
Yeah.
But sometimes there are certain kinds of violation there which are much more serious. Like in case of suppose अगर आप निर्भया वाले केस में होते और आप अगर अपोनेंट लॉयर होते by any chance, after coming to know about such heinous crime, आप क्या करते थे? कुछ भी हो जी जान लगा के बचाना है ये बंदे को ना, क्योंकि मेरा क्लाइंट है.
Uh,
तो सबका
Ma'am,
सेट ऑफ मोरालिटी डिफरेंट होगा. हो सकता है कि देव को लगे नहीं प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स से अगेन कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना इज द वर्स्ट थिंग इन द वर्ल्ड, तो वो डिसाइड करेगा भाई मुझे पता चल गया बट देन टू इट इज माय ड्यूटी टू ट्राई टू सेव माय क्लाइंट एज मच एज पॉसिबल. So in that case, you would have tried. There is a person who might have left the thing. There is a person who might have just basically, withdrawn himself. Okay, there is no support that I'll allow you to get from my side, or I'll make an special appeal to the judge. You see, this is the fact that I have come to. So on the ground of morality, this is what the facts are. But as a part of my professional duties, I'll be fighting still. But this is how the facts are. It depends from person to person there, and what call you take as a lawyer in such kind of things, that is also different. Now you only tell me कि in case of निर्भया case, अगर हमको सच में पता चल जाए कि इस बंदे ने ये crime किया है, do you really think कि as a lawyer वगैरह तो किसी भी ground पे as human हम कहीं से भी इच्छा करेंगे उसको बचाने की in any
no,
of the
ma'am.
way?
No, ma'am.
This is how,
Ma'am, but yes, ma'am, I beg to differ. But in case of
yeah.
if you know late Shri Ram Jetmalani, he has even represented the worst defendants possible. So I just had a
Yes.
doubt. Is the right word term is complainant? Because if I say the victim, I'm already assuming that she is a victim. But in a lot of cases, we have seen that there are even false rape cases. So is the right word complainant or victim?
See, in that case also, I would prefer companion, not victim. For any person, whenever the person is claiming that this is how it has happened, no, that is person's claim. As a lawyer, you are not considered to assume that person to be a victim unless and until it is proven that the person is victim. तो जैसे गिल्टी में आप एक्सपेक्ट करते हो, एट द सेम टाइम्स आप उसमें भी एक्सपेक्ट, आप तब तक वेट करो जब तक कि सच में प्रूव नहीं होता है कि सच में द पर्सन हैज बीन रेप्ड. सो आइडली दिस माइंडसेट of assuming just because a woman is there, she's filing something like this, it could be a false allegation also. As a lawyer we have to be that much open minded कि भाई कुछ भी हो सकता है. I'm taking case, ये सब अलग बात है, पर कुछ भी हो सकता है. So in that case मैं पहले से उसको victim मान के नहीं चलूँ. And by the way, just to add, number of times that your client is not a victim, then just to persuade, okay, the court, just to influence judges' opinion. Lawyers do make use of this term again and again, that my client is victim for that matter, okay, and the other person is victimizer. So ideally it should not be done, but hardly anyone pays attention to this particular part, okay, that जब तक पता ही नहीं है कि सच में क्या हुआ है, आप कैसे उसको victim मान. So in that case, for my as far as my opinion is concerned, I'll basically refer to a person as complainant and not as a victim. Different.
Yes, ma'am, correct.
Okay, so laws of thought clear. What difficult chapter है क्या? It definitely opens a lot many scope of basically discussion on any of the topics that you can apply this to be. So in that case, यहाँ पे ही आपको morality आता है, jurisprudence आता है. So all these things somewhere somewhere starts basically bothering your mind when you are actually concerned about the truth values. This is also one art that we have to learn what exactly we want to speak and basically influence people upon. Okay, so can we stop with the chapter? Chapter is done. You all can just refer to that once. Okay, और अगर एग्जाम के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से भी देखो तो इससे बड़ा और कुछ आने वाला नहीं है. आपको तीनों लॉज में से कोई भी लॉ पूछ लिया या तीनों भी लॉ पूछ लिया, इन दैट केस नाउ यू आर प्रिपेयर्ड. जस्ट लर्न द आर्ट ऑफ राइटिंग. सो थोड़ा सा टेक्स्ट से आप पढ़ो एंड सी हाउ इट हैज बीन कवर्ड. फिर ऑब्जेक्शंस याद रखना, जो भी तीनों के ऑब्जेक्शंस हैं और उसको कैसे रिफ्यूट भी किया गया है. So objections has been raised and then refutation has been given. So you also refute with your own pointers if you have. Okay, that is also most welcome, at least in case of my paper. So as far as I am correcting, it's fine. Okay, then in that case, go ahead with the format. कि आपको example कैसे देना है, objection क्या दिया गया उसके against और उसके against refutation दिया है तो ठीक है. और अगर नहीं दिया तो आपको refute करना है तो you can also do that. Clear this much, everyone?
Ma'am, just a request. Ma'am, could you please keep a revision lecture on 5th chapter, the sums, if possible, on Saturday or some other day?
Okay, no problem. I'll keep. Saturday we have 2 lectures, na?
Thank
So
you.
we'll start with revising 5th chapter initially, then we'll go ahead with whatever topic we are on with. Okay, so tomorrow we will be starting with another chapter, but this time I am covering definition, one of the chapters from your text. थोड़ा सा interesting है. So you all will be feeling connected with the topic also. So that I will be starting with you. Okay. Just one sec. Let me present your attendance का screen. So I can just. हाँ बोलो.
मैम हम लोग को जो 10 मार्क्स का जो था ना ऑब्जेक्टिव का आएगा, उसमें हम लोग को कितने चैप्टर्स रहेंगे?
ऑब्जेक्टिव में आपको 4 चैप्टर रहेंगे बेटा. अब ये 2 चीजें हैं कि आई वाज थिंकिंग देयर विल बी 4 चैप्टर्स.
हाँ अच्छा, लेकिन मैम वो मतलब ऑब्जेक्टिव में मतलब मींस प्रैक्टिकल क्वेश्चन आएंगे कि ज्यादातर थियोरेटिकल रहेंगे?
थियोरेटिकल कैसे होंगे? मैं भी ऑब्जेक्टिव की बात, आप कौन से एग्जाम की बात कर रहे हो?
अभी मैं बात कर रही थी कि मतलब 10 मार्क्स के एग्जाम की, उसमें मतलब था ना ऑब्जेक्टिव में था ना सम आएंगे और उसमें ऑप्शन में रहेगा कि मतलब ये राइट है कि नहीं है, हमें या फिर मतलब थियोरी के क्वेश्चन आएंगे जिसे एमसीक्यू फॉर्म में देंगे.
तो सुनो वृंदा, इसके लिए आंसर ये है बेटा, आज 5 तारीख है ना. मोस्टली मैं कल आप लोगों के लिए एक डेमो रखूंगी, जो अपना सॉफ्टवेयर है उससे आप पहले एक्वेंटेड हो जाओ. तो उसमें मल्टीपल चॉइस ही आएगा. अभी जो क्वेश्चन आ रहा है 10 मार्क्स का, मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चन. ठीक है, तो उसमें कैसे होगा, क्वेश्चन दिया है आपको, बस रिलेटेड सही ऑप्शन चूज करना है.
हाँ.
तो उसमें कुछ
हाँ
कंफ्यूजन है।
लेकिन मैम उसके लिए हम लोग को सिर्फ प्रैक्टिकल क्वेश्चन आएंगे कि जो मतलब थियरी का रहेगा।
थियरी प्रैक्टिकल क्या होता है? अगर मैंने आपको बताया कि सपोज मैंने दिया है कि निगेशन पी हॉर्स क्यू, ठीक है, negation p horseshoe q, okay, this is a tautologous statement। तो आपने अभी सीख लिया है ना कि आपको उसको सिंबलाइज करना है और सिंबलाइज करके निकालना है कि सारा ट्रुथ वैल्यू ट्रू आ रहा है क्या। अगर सारा ट्रुथ वैल्यू ट्रू आ रहा है तो इसका मतलब टोटोलॉगस है, तो इन दैट केस जो सही ऑप्शन होगा उसको आप क्लिक करोगे। समझ में आया? तो अभी सम्स तो आ नहीं सकते हैं उसमें, पर सम्स से रिलेटेड मैं कोई चीज, कोई क्वेश्चन देके मैं डायरेक्टली उसका आंसर तो पूछ ही सकती हूँ ना उसमें, सम्स में भी। ठीक है
हाँ
विमल?
लेकिन मैम आपके मतलब वो चैप्टर का रिवीजन करवाओगे जो भी 4 चैप्टर आने वाले हैं?
हाँ तो हमने तो ऑलरेडी रिविजन